I walked into the courtroom, and the first thing I smelled was entitlement. It has a very distinct scent, like expensive cologne used to cover up a cheap soul. My bailiff, Bird, stood by the door, looking stoic as always, but I could see that slight twitch in his eyebrow. He knew. I knew. Today was going to be one of those days where I'd have to teach a grown man that the world doesn't revolve around his ego. I adjusted my robe, took my seat, and looked down at the docket. Case number 408, a dispute over an unpaid invoice. Typical. Boring, usually. But then I looked up. On the plaintiff's side stood a woman named Maria Gonzalez. She looked like she was about to faint. Her hands were gripping the podium so hard her knuckles were white. She was dressed in her Sunday best, a modest floral dress that had probably seen better days, but she was neat, respectful, and terrified. I like respectful. I can work with terrified. On the defendant's side stood a man who looked like he had just walked out of a catalog for how to look rich but act like a jerk. His name was Richard Sterling. 3-piece suit, custom tailored, navy blue, silk tie, a watch on his wrist that probably cost more than Miss Gonzalez's car. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at his fingernails. Then he checked his watch. Then he sighed, loud enough for the microphone to pick it up. Strike one. Bird, call the case, I said, my voice cutting through the silence of the room. I kept my eyes glued to Mr. Sterling. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, Bird said. Everyone sat, except Sterling. He took his time, buttoning his jacket, smoothing his lapels, and then slowly lowering himself into the chair as if he were doing us a favor by existing in the same zip code. Miss Gonzalez, I started ignoring the peacock on the left for a moment. You are suing the defendant, Mr. Sterling, for $5,000, which you claim is the unpaid balance for catering services you provided for a private event at his estate. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Maria said, her voice shaking. It was for his daughter's 16th birthday party. I made all the food. Tamales, empanadas, a taco bar, desserts, everything. And you have a contract? Yes, Judge. She fumbled with her papers. I have it right here. Bring it here, I ordered. Bird took the papers and handed them to me. I put on my glasses. The contract was simple, standard. A deposit was paid, and the balance was due upon completion. I looked at the photos attached. The food looked spectacular. This woman worked hard. I could see the labor in the presentation. I took off my glasses and swiveled my chair toward Mr. Sterling. He was currently picking a piece of lint off his sleeve. Mr. Sterling, I said. He didn't look up immediately. He finished removing the lint, flicked it away, and then finally deigned to make eye contact with me. He gave me a smile that didn't reach his eyes. It was a boardroom smile, a shark smile. Yes, he said. Just yes. No, Your Honor. No, Judge. You ate the food? I asked. I suppose people ate the food, he said, leaning back, looking bored. I didn't personally inspect every taco, if that's what you're asking. Did you hire her? My assistant hired her. I have people for that. But you signed the check for the deposit, I pointed out, waving the copy of the check Maria had included in her evidence. That is your signature, is it not? He squinted at it from across the room. Looks like it. Look, can we speed this up? I have a shareholder meeting at 2, and quite frankly, this is a waste of my time. The room went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Even the audience, usually shifting in their seats, froze. I leaned forward. I rested my chin on my hand. I love it when they do this. It makes the dismantling so much more satisfying. A waste of your time? I repeated, my voice dropping an octave. Let me explain something to you, Mr. Sterling. You are in a court of law. You are being sued. You are not in your boardroom. You are not at your country club. You are in my house. And in my house, you speak when spoken to, and you stand up when you address me. He chuckled, actually chuckled. He looked around the room as if seeking an audience for his amusement. Come on, this is television. Let's not pretend this is the Supreme Court. I'm here because my lawyer said it would be cheaper to fly here and squash this than to deal with local litigation. It's a nuisance fee. She's a nuisance. He gestured carelessly toward Maria, who looked like she was about to cry. She is a businesswoman who provided a service, I snapped. And you are a thief. His smile vanished. Excuse me? You heard me. You took her product, you consumed it, and you didn't pay for it. Where I come from, that's called stealing. Now, why didn't you pay her? The food was substandard, he declared, regaining his arrogance. It was too spicy, my guest complained. It was pedestrian, not up to the Sterling standard. Pedestrian? I looked at Maria. Did he complain on the night of the party? No, Your Honor, Maria cried out. He told me at the end of the night that everything was delicious. He even asked for leftovers to take inside the main house for his staff. He shook my hand. Liar, Sterling muttered. Don't you call her a liar, I slammed my hand on the desk. I'm looking at the text messages she submitted. I flipped through the file. Here it is. The next day, from you, great party. Send final invoice. Does that sound like a man who found the food pedestrian? Sterling rolled his eyes. I was being polite. It's called social grace. Something you might want to learn. The audience gasped. Bird took a step forward. I felt a cold calm wash over me. This wasn't just a bad defendant. This was a man who thought his bank account gave him the right to trample on human dignity. He thought he could bully a hard-working woman and then come into my courtroom and bully me. He had made a fatal miscalculation. Mr. Sterling, I said, my voice dangerously quiet, you seem to be under the impression that you are the smartest person in the room. You think because you have a three-piece suit in a shareholder meeting, the rules of decency don't apply to you. You think you can insult me. I'm just stating facts, he said, checking his watch again. I have real lawyers for real problems. This is a joke. I make $5,000 in the time it takes me to take a piss. I don't care about the money. It's the principle. I don't pay for garbage. You don't pay for garbage, I asked, but you kept the leftovers? My staff ate them. Like I said, pedestrian food for the help. I looked at Maria. She was wiping tears from her eyes. This man was humiliating her on national television, and he was enjoying it. Stand up, I ordered Sterling. He sat there. He crossed his legs. I'm comfortable. I said, stand up, I shouted. The sheer volume of my voice made him jump. He stood up, looking annoyed, adjusting his jacket again. You are going to learn a very expensive lesson today, sir, I said, staring him down. And it's not going to be about money. You say this is a joke? You say this is a circus? Well, guess what? I'm the ringmaster, and you're the clown. This is ridiculous, Sterling spat out. I'm leaving. I'll write the damn check just to shut you up. I don't need to be lectured by a TV personality. He actually turned to grab his briefcase. He turned his back on me. Bird, I yelled. Don't let him leave. Bird blocked the gate. Sterling stopped, looking at the large bailiff, then back at me. You are not dismissed, I barked. Sit your behind down. You want to write a check? Oh, you're going to write a check. But we aren't done. You insulted my court. You insulted this plaintiff. And now you're trying to buy your way out of accountability. That doesn't work here. Beauty fades, dumb is forever, and sir, you are looking very permanent right now. He glared at me, his face turning a shade of red that matched the stripes on his tie. You can't talk to me like that. Do you know who I am? I can buy and sell this entire studio. You can't even pay for a taco, Mr. Sterling, I shot back. So don't tell me what you can buy. You are a small, petty man playing dress-up. Now, look at me. He refused. He looked at the wall. Look at me, I screamed. He snapped his head toward me, eyes blazing with fury. What? He screamed back. The air left the room. He had just screamed at a judge. He had lost control. I leaned back, a small, satisfied smirk playing on my lips. Gotcha, I whispered to myself. I had him exactly where I wanted him. He was emotional. He was irrational. And now I was going to dissect him piece by piece until there was nothing left but his checkbook and his shame. Mr. Sterling, I said, my voice returning to a calm, icy rhythm. You just made a very big mistake. You want to play big shot? Fine. Let's look at your countersuit. Because I see here you filed a countersuit against Miss Gonzalez for emotional distress caused by the bad food. Is that a joke too, or are you actually that fragile? He straightened his tie, trying to regain his composure, but his hands were shaking. It ruined the ambiance. My reputation was damaged. Your reputation? I laughed. A dry, harsh laugh. Sir, if your reputation could be destroyed by an empanada, you didn't have much of a reputation to begin with. Now, answer the question I asked you 5 minutes ago. Why did you text her that the party was great if the food was garbage? Were you lying then, or are you lying now? Because you're definitely lying at one of those times, and I eat liars for lunch. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He was trapped. If he said he was lying then, he admits to being two-faced. If he says he's lying now, he loses the case. I was being sarcastic in the text, he stammered. Sarcastic? I raised an eyebrow. Let me see the phone. It's on my phone, he said, clutching his pocket. Bring me the phone. He hesitated. If you have nothing to hide, bring me the phone. Unless there are other texts on there you don't want me to see, maybe texts to your friends bragging about how you were going to stiff the caterer. His face went pale. Bird, I said, pointing at Sterling. Get the phone. Sterling stepped back. This is private property. You have no right. In this room, I have every right when it pertains to the evidence of a contract you signed, I declared. Hand it over, or I find you in contempt and you can spend the night in a cell with people who definitely won't care about your shareholder meeting. He froze. The arrogance was cracking. The veneer of the rich businessman was peeling away to reveal a cheap con artist. He slowly pulled the phone out of his pocket. This was about to get interesting. I could smell the truth coming out, and it smelled a lot better than his cologne. I took the phone from Bird. It was sleek, expensive, and heavy in my hand, probably weighted down by all the secrets it held. I put my glasses back on, peering over the rim at Sterling. He was sweating now. A fine sheen of perspiration had broken out on his forehead right beneath his perfectly coiffed hairline. Unlock it, I said, handing it back to Bird, who held it out to him. Sterling punched in the code with a shaky finger. Bird handed it back to me. I scrolled. I didn't have to scroll far. Let's see. I narrated, my voice echoing in the silent courtroom. Text to Mike on the day of the party. Caterer is here. Food smells amazing. Going to be a good night. Interesting. No mention of garbage or pedestrian tacos there. I looked up. Sterling was staring at his shoes. Scroll down. Ah, here we are. The day after. Text to wife party was a hit. Saved $5,000 on the food. Told her it was bad. She's clueless. Bought the new golf clubs instead. The audience gasped collectively. A low murmur of disgust rippled through the room. Even the cameraman zoomed in a little tighter on Sterling's face, catching the exact moment his soul left his body. Maria let out a small sob. She covered her mouth with her hand. I lowered the phone slowly. I took off my glasses. I stared at him. For a long 10 seconds, I said absolutely nothing. I let the silence crush him. I let the weight of his own greed suffocate him in front of millions of viewers. So I said, finally, my voice dangerously soft, you bought golf clubs with her money. It's out of context, Sterling croaked. His voice was a shadow of the booming baritone he had walked in with. Out of context? I repeated. It says, saved $5,000 on the food. Told her it was bad. She's clueless. Which part of that is out of context, Mr. Sterling? The part where you admit the food was good? The part where you admit you lied? Or the part where you call this hardworking woman clueless because you thought you could exploit her kindness? I meant he was floundering. He was drowning on dry land. You meant to steal? I cut him off. You are a predator. You looked at this woman. You saw someone you thought was weak, someone who wouldn't fight back, someone who couldn't afford a high-priced lawyer to drag you through court. You thought you could trample her to save a few bucks for your hobbies. You are disgusting. Judge, please, he tried, holding up a hand. I can explain. There is nothing to explain, I shouted, slamming the gavel down so hard it made the water pitcher jump. The evidence is right here, in your own words. You defrauded her. You lied to my face. You wasted my time, and you insulted my intelligence. I turned to Maria. Her eyes were red, but she was looking at me with a mixture of shock and vindication. Miss Gonzalez, I said gently, you are not clueless. You are a victim of a man who has no moral compass. You did your job, you did it well, and you deserve every penny. Thank you, Judge, she whispered. I turned back to Sterling. The sight of him made me sick. But we aren't done, Mr. Sterling, I said, leaning forward, my eyes narrowing. Because you didn't just steal from her. You tried to make a mockery of this court. You came in here with your nose in the air, treating everyone like dirt. You screamed at me. You screamed at a judge. I apologize for the outburst, he said quickly, trying to salvage whatever shreds of dignity he had left. I was under stress. The shareholder meeting. I don't care about your shareholder meeting, I roared. You think you're the only person with a job. You think you're the only person with stress. This woman, I pointed to Maria, has bills to pay. She has ingredients to buy. She has a life to support. $5,000 might be a piss to you, as you so eloquently put it, but to her, it is her livelihood, it is her rent, it is her food. He flinched with every sentence. Good. And now, I continued, a wicked glint in my eye, I'm going to hit you where it hurts. Your wallet. I picked up my pen, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. I wrote it down, but I wasn't finished. However, I said, pausing for effect, I am also looking at your countersuit, the one where you claimed emotional distress. That was a frivolous filing. You filed a false claim to intimidate her. You used the legal system as a weapon against a defenseless woman. That is an abusive process. I looked at Bird. Bird, what's the maximum I can award for punitive damages in a case of malicious prosecution and frivolous litigation in this jurisdiction? Bird checked his notes, though he didn't really need to. $5,000 is the cap for the claim, Judge, but you have discretion on sanctions for conduct in the courtroom. Right, I said. Mr. Sterling, you are going to pay the $5,000 for the food. And because you wasted my time, lied under oath, and filed a bogus countersuit, I am dismissing your countersuit with prejudice. Furthermore, I paused. The room held its breath. I am fining you for contempt of court, I declared, for your outburst, for your disrespect, and for lying to me about the text messages. You can't do that, Sterling shouted. This is a TV show. This is an arbitration based on real law, I snapped. And you signed a contract to be here, a contract that says you will abide by my rules. And my rule is, don't lie to the judge. That will be another $5,000 payable to the show's charity fund for victims of fraud. His jaw dropped. $10,000 for tacos? No, sir, I said, standing up. $5,000 for the tacos. $5,000 for being a jerk. And let me tell you something else. I'm going to make sure this episode airs. I want every one of your shareholders to see exactly what kind of man runs their company. I want them to see the man who steals from caterers to buy golf clubs. I want them to see the man who screams at a judge because he got caught. Your reputation? You were worried about your reputation? Well, congratulations, Mr. Sterling. You just became famous. I gathered my papers. We're done here. I slammed the gavel one last time. It sounded like a gunshot. But, Sterling stammered, looking around frantically. Get out, I yelled, pointing at the door. He grabbed his briefcase, his face a mask of pure humiliation, and practically ran out of the courtroom. He didn't look at the camera. He didn't look at the audience. He just ran. I looked at Maria. She was smiling through her tears. Thank you, Judge Judy, she said, her voice trembling. Thank you so much. You're welcome, I said, softening my tone. Next time, get the money up front from men who wear suits that cost more than your van. They're usually the ones you have to watch out for. I will, Judge. Good luck to you. I watched her walk out, head held high. Then I turned to Bird. Can you believe that guy? I asked, shaking my head. The arrogance. I saved $5,000. She's clueless. The only clueless person in this room was him. He needed a reality check, Judge Bird said, nodding. You gave him a whole bank statement. I hate bullies, Bird, I said, stepping down from the bench. I really hate bullies. And rich bullies are the worst kind. They think the rules don't apply. Well, today, gravity applied. I walked toward my chambers. The adrenaline was still pumping, but it was a good feeling. The feeling of justice served cold, hard, and fast. But as I reached the door, I heard a commotion in the hallway. Shouting, loud shouting, and it sounded like Mr. Sterling was at it again. I stopped. I turned around. Bird, I said, what is going on out there? Bird opened the door and peeked into the hall. He turned back to me, his eyes wide. Judge, he's fighting with the hallway reporter. He just slapped the microphone out of her hand. My eyes narrowed. Oh, he wasn't done being stupid? He wanted an encore? Open the door, I said, adjusting my robe. I'm not done with him. Bird opened the door wide. I stepped out into the hallway, the bright studio lights hitting my face. There he was, Richard Sterling, red-faced, veins bulging in his neck, screaming at our reporter, dragging his expensive briefcase like a shield. He had knocked the camera guy sideways and was currently pointing a finger in the reporter's face. I will sue this entire network. I will shut you down, he was screaming. M.R. Sterling, I bellowed from the doorway of the courtroom. The entire hallway froze. The reporter ducked. The cameraman righted himself. Sterling spun around to face me. He looked like a cornered rat, a rich, angry, cornered rat. You, I said, walking toward him. The click of my heels on the floor was the only sound in the corridor. Get back in my courtroom. Now. I'm leaving, he yelled. The case is over. The case is over when I say it's over. I said, stopping 3 feet from him. You just assaulted a member of my crew in my hallway? She shoved that mic in my face. He lied. I saw him do it. I saw the tape. You are a little man, I said, staring him down. A tiny, insignificant little man with a big wallet and no heart. You think you can throw a tantrum because you lost? You think you can hit people? I didn't hit her. Security, I yelled. 2 large guards stepped forward. Detain this man. Call the LAPD. I want charges pressed for assault and battery. We have it on tape. Sterling's face went from red to white in a millisecond. Police? No, wait. Judge, wait. Don't you judge me now, I spat. You had your chance to walk away with your dignity or what was left of it. You chose violence. Now you get the consequences. Get him out of my sight. The guards grabbed him by the arms. For the first time, the expensive suit looked rumpled. The silk tie was crooked. The arrogance was gone, replaced by pure, unadulterated fear. Judge Judy, please, he wailed as they dragged him down the hall toward the exit. My reputation, my shareholders. Should have thought about that before you ate the tacos. I called after him. I watched him disappear around the corner. The hallway was silent again. The reporter, a young woman named Sarah, looked shaken. Are you okay? I asked her. I'm fine, Judge, she said, picking up her microphone. Just surprised. Don't be, I said. When you strip away the money, some men are just thugs in nice clothes. You handled yourself well. She smiled. Thank you, Judge. I turned back to Bird. Well, I said, smoothing my hair. That was vigorous. Lunch? Bird asked. Lunch? I agreed. But no tacos. I'm in the mood for something richer. Maybe I'll go buy some golf clubs. We laughed. But deep down, I knew this episode was going to explode. The internet loves a villain, but they love seeing a villain get destroyed even more. Mr. Sterling just gave the world a masterclass in how to ruin your life in 22 minutes. And I held the chalk. I sat in my chambers, the adrenaline slowly ebbing away, replaced by the familiar hum of post-trial fatigue. It's a specific kind of tired, not physical, but a mental exhaustion from wading through the muck of human dishonesty. I poured myself a cup of tea, the steam rising in the quiet room. Bird was checking his phone near the door. "It's already trending," Judge Bird said, not looking up. "What is?" I asked, blowing on my tea. "The promo. The network put up a clip of you yelling, 'Beauty fades, dumb is forever.' It's got 1 million views in 20 minutes. People are losing their minds over Sterling." I took a sip. Let them. Maybe it'll teach the next idiot to think twice before he tries to cheat a working woman. But the day wasn't over. My producer, Randy, burst into the room. He looked flushed, a mixture of excitement and panic on his face. "Judge, you have to see this," Randy said, waving a tablet. "What now? Did Sterling trip on his way to the police car?" I asked dryly. "No, it's better or worse, depending on how you look at it. One of the shareholders saw the live stream." I put my cup down. "Live stream? Since when do we live stream?" "Someone in the audience," Randy explained quickly. "Illegal stream. We're taking it down, but the damage is done. A major investor in Sterling's company just tweeted. Look." He shoved the tablet in front of me. I squinted at the screen. A tweet from a verified account, someone named Marcus Thorne, a name I recognized from the financial pages. "Just watched Richard Sterling embarrass our entire firm on Judge Judy. Unacceptable behavior. Emergency board meeting called for 4 p.m. He's out. Number Sterling is done. Number Judge Judy rules." I leaned back in my chair, a slow smile spreading across my face. "Well," I said, "it seems justice travels faster than a private jet." "This is huge," Judge Randy said, pacing. "This guy is going to lose his CEO position because of a $5,000 catering bill. The internet is calling it the 5K takedown. They're making memes of his face when you told him to stand up." "Good," I said. "Hubris meets nemesis. It's a Greek tragedy for the TikTok generation." But then the phone on my desk rang. The red line. That's never good. That's usually legal. Or the network brass. I picked it up. "Judge Sheindlin." "Judy, it's executive producer," the voice on the other end said. It was tight, tense. "We have a problem. Sterling's lawyer is on the phone. Not the one he mentioned in court. His real lawyer, from that big firm in New York. They're threatening an injunction to stop the episode from airing. They say we entrapped him. They say you incited the violence in the hallway." I laughed. I couldn't help it. It was a deep belly laugh. "Entrapment?" I said. I asked him questions. He answered them. "Incited violence?" He slapped a reporter. "Tell his lawyer to save his breath for the courtroom, because if he sues me, I will countersue him so hard his grandchildren will be born in debt. The release forms are ironclad. He signed them. He knew where he was. He just didn't think he'd lose." "They're saying he was under duress," the producer said. "He was under the delusion of grandeur," I corrected. "Air the episode. Do not cut a single second. In fact, extend it. Include the hallway footage. Include the arrest. I want the world to see the whole unvarnished truth." "Are you sure?" "It's risky." "I am the risk," I said. "And I say we air it." I hung up. "Everything okay?" Bird asked. "Just a little post-game negotiation," I said, standing up. "They want to bury the truth. I brought a shovel to dig it up." I walked over to the window, looking out at the studio lot. It was sunny, a typical LA day, but inside these walls, storms were brewing. "You know, Bird," I said thoughtfully, "people like Sterling, they go through life thinking money is a shield. They think it protects them from consequences, from bad manners, from the rules the rest of us follow. They surround themselves with yes men who laugh at their unfunny jokes and tell them they're geniuses. Then they walk into my courtroom, and for the first time in 20 years, someone tells them no. Someone tells them you're wrong. Someone tells them shut up, and they short circuit. They can't handle the truth," Bird said. "Exactly. The truth is an allergy for them. And today, Mr. Sterling went into anaphylactic shock. Just then, a noise from the outer office. A commotion. Again. Oh, for crying out loud, I muttered. Is the circus back in town? I marched to the door and threw it open. Standing there was a woman. She was impeccable. Sharp gray suit, hair pulled back in a severe bun, holding a briefcase that looked like it cost more than my first house. She was surrounded by 3 frantic PAs trying to stop her. I need to speak with Judge Scheindlin immediately, she was saying. Her voice was ice. I'm here, I said, stepping into the fray. Who are you, and why are you yelling in my production office? She turned to me. Her eyes were cold, calculating. Judge Scheindlin, I am Victoria Banks. I represent Mr. Sterling's holding company. And I crossed my arms, and I am here to negotiate a settlement regarding the footage, she said, stepping forward. My client, the board, not Mr. Sterling personally, is willing to make a very generous donation to a charity of your choice if the hallway incident disappears. I stared at her. The audacity. It was breathtaking. You want to buy me off, I asked, my voice dangerously low. We want to protect the valuation of a multinational corporation, she corrected. Mr. Sterling is having a mental health crisis. Airing that footage would be exploitative. A mental health crisis? I raised an eyebrow. Is that what we're calling a temper tantrum these days? Listen to me. Miss Banks, your client didn't have a crisis when he was eating the empanadas. He didn't have a crisis when he bragged about stiffing the caterer. He had a crisis when he got caught. Judge, be reasonable, she said, lowering her voice. We are talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in stock value. People's jobs are at risk. Miss Gonzalez's job was at risk when your CEO decided not to pay her, I snapped. Did you care about her valuation? Did you care about her stock? Banks didn't flinch. That is a separate issue. We will pay Miss Gonzalez. Double, triple. Just kill the tape. I took a step closer to her. I looked her dead in the eye. You can take your briefcase, your offer, and your generous donation and get out of my building, I said. I am not for sale. The truth is not for sale. And if you don't leave in the next 30 seconds, I will have Bird escort you out the same way he escorted your client. Do you want to be on the news too? She held my gaze for a moment, assessing. She realized I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't negotiating. I was adjudicating. Very well, she said stiffly. You are making a mistake. I make judgments, Miss Banks, I said. Mistakes are for people who think they can bribe a judge. She turned on her heel and walked out. The PAs looked at me with awe. Judge, Randy whispered, you just kicked out the biggest corporate lawyer in the city. She was trespassing, I said, turning back to my office. And she was boring. Bird, close the door. I still haven't finished my tea. We went back inside. I sat down. My hands were steady. My conscience was clear. You know, I said to Bird, this episode is going to break records. Internet's already calling you. The CEO slayer, Bird chuckled, showing me his phone. I smiled. I preferred Judge, just Judge. But the story wasn't over. I could feel it. Sterling wasn't the type to go down quietly. He was the type who lashed out. And while he was in custody now, he had resources, he had anger, and he had nothing left to lose. My phone buzzed. A text from my daughter. Mom, are you okay? News says there's a bomb threat at the studio. My blood ran cold. Bird, I said, my voice sharp. Call security. Now, what is it? We might have a bigger problem than a lawsuit. The alarms started blaring. The shrill, rhythmic sound of the emergency evacuation signal. Whoop, whoop. Evacuate immediately. Let's go, Judge, Bird said, grabbing my arm. No arguments. I grabbed my bag. We moved fast. Into the hallway. People were running. Confusion. Panic. Is it real? Someone shouted. Move! Move! The security chief was yelling. We burst out into the sunlight of the parking lot. Fire trucks were already pulling up. Police cars everywhere. It was chaos. I looked back at the building. My courtroom. My bench. Do you think he did this? Bird asked, standing beside me, scanning the crowd. Sterling? I thought about it. The man was petty. He was vindictive. But a bomb threat? That was a federal crime. That was desperate. I wouldn't put it past him, I said, or one of his crazed followers, or maybe just a distraction. Then I saw him, not Sterling, but the man from the audience. The one Randy said had been live streaming. He was standing near the edge of the police tape, holding his phone up, filming the fire trucks. He saw me. He pointed his phone right at me. I walked over to him. The police tried to stop me, but I waved them off. You, I said. He lowered the phone, looking startled. Judge Judy, I'm a huge fan. You were live streaming in my court, I said. Illegal. I'm sorry. It was just too good not to share. Did you see anything? I asked. Before the alarm? Did you see anyone leave something behind? He hesitated. Actually, yeah. When Sterling ran out, his lawyer, not the lady, the guy he was sitting with at the start, he didn't leave with him. He stayed behind for a second. He put his briefcase under the table. Then he ran out after Sterling. I froze. Which table? The defendant's table. Under the chair, I turned to the police captain who had just walked up. Captain! The defendant's table! Under the chair! A briefcase! The captain shouted into his radio, Bomb squad! Sector 4! Courtroom set! Defendant's table! Possible device! We waited. The minutes ticked by like hours. The silence in the parking lot was heavy, broken only by the crackle of radios. Then, the radio squawked. Captain, we found it. It's a briefcase. My heart hammered against my ribs. Is it active? The captain asked. A pause, a long, agonizing pause. Negative on explosives, Captain. But it's weird. Weird how? It's full of cash. And a note? What does the note say? It says, for the inconvenient woman, choke on it. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. It wasn't a bomb. It was a bribe, or an insult, or both, left by a coward who thought money was the only language the world spoke. Secure the evidence, the captain said. False alarm on the bomb. But we have a suspicious package. I looked at Bird. He shook his head. He tried to pay you off? By leaving a bag of cash? No, I said. Realizing the truth, he didn't leave it for me. He left it for Maria, the inconvenient woman. He thought if he left cash, she'd take it and drop the suit. He thought he could buy her silence, even after the verdict. He really doesn't get it, does he? No, I said. He doesn't. And that's why he lost everything. All clear, the captain shouted. People can return to the building. I straightened my jacket. Well, I said, back to work. You're going back in? Bird asked. After a bomb scare? It wasn't a bomb, Bird. It was just another pile of garbage from Mr. Sterling. And I have cases to hear. I have people waiting for justice. And I am not letting a rich crybaby shut down my court. I walked back toward the studio doors. The crowd parted for me. I could feel their eyes. I could hear the whispers. That's her. That's Judge Judy. I walked back into the building, the smell of burnt ego still lingering in the air. I went to my chambers. I put on my robe. I checked my hair. Bird, I said, call the next case. You got it, Judge. I walked out. I took my seat. I looked at the new plaintiff and defendant. They looked terrified. Don't worry, I told them. Unless you're a CEO who hates tacos, we'll get along just fine. The audience laughed. The tension broke. And I banged the gavel. Case number 409, I said. Let's get to the truth. And as the camera light turned red, I knew one thing for sure. Mr. Sterling had thought he could break the internet. But in the end, the internet and the law had broken him. And I was just doing my job. One idiot at a time.